Hello students, welcome to English literature class. This is part 4 of the famous trial scene. In the previous video, I had ended with the quality of Mercy's speech made by Portia. Just let me briefly recapitulate or summarize the quality of Mercy's speech for you children once again. Children, I'm in page number 119, line 191. Before that, what made Portia to make that famous speech on Mercy, children? Because Antonio had admitted that he had made that bond with him and he had forfeited the bond. So Portia tells that, yes, since he has agreed and he has made the bond is in every way legal. So there is no other way to save Antonio except Shylock showing mercy. At that point, Shylock, then she tells that he must be merciful, but Shylock takes exception to her words and he objects her to her use of the word must. He takes it in the legal sense, though Portia has used it in the moral sense. He asks her who can compel him to have mercy on Antonio. At that point, Portia, in reply to that, tells that the very characteristic of mercy is that there can be no compulsion in its exercise. The quality of mercy is not strained. Nobody can force a person to show mercy. It is beyond the power of man and the law to compel a man to be merciful. Mercy is purely a voluntary action, whereas justice has the compelling force of the law behind it. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. So she compares mercy, the quality mercy, to rain. Children, remember, I have already told you, mercy means compassion, forgiveness, all these things. So now, just as the gentle rain comes down from heaven, from the sky, naturally, without anybody's order, nobody can command the rain. So just as it rains naturally from heaven, from the sky, on the earth below, in the same way, she tells a person should show mercy. Nobody can compel a person to be merciful. It should come naturally from the bottom of his heart. And she tells that mercy shows itself on its own accord. It is twice blessed. She tells that it carries with it twofold power and a double blessing. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. So it benefits and makes happy both the giver and the receiver. And then she tells, it's mightiest in the mightiest. Please come to meaning 196. It's most powerful in the men with most power. It is the most powerful weapon that most powerful men have. Children, its effect is greatest and noblest when exercised by the great and the powerful, though the law gives them absolute power to enforce justice. Then she tells, it becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. It suits the king. The quality of mercy suits the king better than his own crown. Come to meaning 196-97. It is a nobler quality in a royal king than the crown which he wears. His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty. What is a scepter? A rod which a king holds in his hand, symbolizing his royal power. Come to line meaning 198-199. His scepter symbolizes the earthly power, temporal power. His scepter is an emblem of earthly power, which is the main characteristic of a king who commands power and grandeur. Then she goes on to tell that wherein that sit the dread and fear of kings. It arouses dread and fear in the minds of the king. It gives him an awful majesty and fills his subjects with dread and fear of him. But then she makes this famous statement, but mercy is above the sceptred sway. But mercy, 201, but mercy is far above this world that is ruled by men with scepters. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself. So when this quality of mercy is deep-seated in the hearts of kings, it is actually the quality that belongs to God himself. And then she tells, an earthly power that then show like is God, when mercy seasons justice. Temporal power is the attribute of earthly kings, but mercy is the attribute of God, the King of kings. Earthly kings approach nearest in attribute to their divine king when they make use of the divine attribute of mercy to soften the stern decrees of justice with it. So a king, though he has the power, when does he become equivalent to God? When is he nearest to God in attribute? When he blends justice with mercy. This is where that famous speech ends, children. And then she goes on to tell, therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation. So she tells him that though justice is his plea, demand, consider this. She asks him to consider that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation. Please come to meaning 207, 208. If we were to be judged according to the strict justice of God, none of us would be saved. That's why we have this famous proverb, children. To err is human, to forgive is divine. To err, E-R-R, means all people commit sins and make mistakes, but God forgives them. While anyone can make a mistake, we should aspire to do as God does, that is, show mercy and forgive the sinner. So she goes on to tell, we do pray for mercy, and the same prayer that teaches all to render the deeds of mercy. So we pray to God to forgive us for our sins, so that we may forgive those who trespasses against us. So the one who needs God's mercy to be shown on him should show mercy to the man who needs it from him. Therefore, Portia requests Shylock not to press for bare justice in the case, but to forego his regal rights and to season justice with mercy. And she goes on to tell, I have spoke thus much to mitigate the justice of thy plea. She goes on to tell that she has spoken all this much to soften his demand for justice, to mitigate the justice of thy plea. And which if thou follow, but if he insists upon justice, this court of Venice must needs give sentence against the merchant here. Then the court will be forced to, it has no choice but to decide the case in his favor against Antonio. At that time, Shylock, my deeds upon my head, I crave the law, the penalty, and forfeit of my bond. He tells that he will take the responsibility for which he is doing. The only thing that he asks for is the penalty allowed by the law, which has become due because of the breach of agreement. This is where I had stopped, children. Shall we continue now? I am in page number 120, line 216. Is he not able to discharge the money? Now Portia wants to know whether Antonio was not able to repay the loan. Bassanio, ever eager to help his friend. Yes, here I tender it for him in the court. Yeah, twice the sum. If that will not suffice, I'll be bound to pay it 10 times over on forfeit of my hands, my head, my heart. If this will not suffice, it must appear that malice bears down truth. And I beseech you, rest once the law to your authority, to do a great right, do a little wrong, and curb this cruel evil of his will. Children, go through the meanings, all of you, given the right side of the textbook. So what does it tell? Yes, on behalf of Antonio, Bassanio is ready, tender. I am ready to give him, for him in the court, on his behalf. I am ready to pay him. Yes, I'm even prepared to pay twice the principal amount. Yes, instead of 3,000 ducats, I'm ready to give twice the amount, that is 6,000. If that will not suffice, if that is not enough for him, I will be bound to pay it 10 times over. I am ready. I will give an undertaking. I am ready to undertake to give it 10 times, 10 times over on forfeit of my hands, my head, and my heart. If he fails to give, as he has promised that he will pay 10 times over, he is ready to forfeit his hands, head, and his heart. So Bassanio is prepared to go to any length to save Antonio. If this will not suffice, if I fail to do so, I shall say, okay, this is the line number 220, children. So I will be bound to pay it 10 times over on forfeit of my hands, my head, and my heart. If he fails to give it 10 times over, he shall forfeit his hands, head, and heart. If this will not suffice, it must appear that malice bears down truth. And if still Antonio is not happy with this offer, if Shylock refuses his offer, then what is clear? It is plainly seen that this case is only pressed forward from pure spite and ill will. So he really doesn't want justice. He really intends to harm. Malice means deliberate intention to harm someone. So he is doing it with deliberate intention of harming Antonio. He is not purely seeking justice. If he wanted justice, he would have taken that money. If he had given money, he should expect to get back money. But here, though he is offering him twice the amount, he is prepared to 10 times the money. If Shylock is not happy with that offer, it means that he is really not seeking justice. It only shows his pure spite and ill will. And I beseech you, he requests, rest once the law to your authority. Twist the law on this occasion with her authority, and to do a great right, do a little wrong. He appeals now. There is no other go. Now he knows that it is legally binding, that bond, and Shylock is very adamant that he will not show mercy. So the only way that they can save Antonio is, so he tells Portia to twist the law this one occasion with the authority, to do a great act of justice, to commit this slight irregularity, and curb this cruel devil of his will, and restrain this cruel devil, who is the devil now? Shylock, from demanding the fulfillment of his desire. So this shows that Bassanio, he is becoming desperate. He doesn't want to lose Antonio. He goes to the extent of asking the lawyer, that is Portia disguised as a lawyer, to twist the law on this occasion, to do a great act of justice, to commit this slight irregularity. But how does Portia respond? It must not be. There is no power in Venice can alter a decree established. It will be recorded for a precedent, and many an error by the same example will rush into the state. It cannot be. She refuses to do this. Why? Because Portia says it must not be, it cannot be done. There is no power in Venice can alter a decree established, that there is no authority, that no authority is powerful enough to set aside the laws of the land. Nobody can alter the law established. It will be recorded, if it is done, it will be recorded for precedent, and many an error by the same example will rush into the state. It cannot be. If it is done, many errors might come into the affairs of the state. If it were done once, it would be quoted as an example for future imitation, and would probably lead to the introduction of many great abuses. So she tells it cannot be done. She declares that it cannot be done. Children, go through the meaning 229, 30. Why the law cannot be twisted? Because many errors might come into the affairs of the state. Shylock, first time, see somebody is there who is on his side, because the lawyer refuses to listen to Bassanio, and he's so excited. He calls us, "A Daniel, come to judgment here, a Daniel. Oh, wise young judge, how I do honor thee." Children, Daniel, these are some of the ways some people pronounce. A Daniel come to judgment. Who is Daniel? Come to meaning 231, a great Jewish character of the Old Testament in the Bible, who was known for his wisdom and judgment. Actually, the reference is the story of Susanna and the elders in the Apocrypha. During a skillful cross-examination, Daniel demonstrated that Susanna, who had been falsely accused and condemned by two elders, was innocent. So in what way? Now, why is Shylock referring her to Daniel? Because Portia resembles Daniel in youth and judgment. So there also Daniel, who was young but very wise. So in this way here, Portia looks very young, but she knows the law very well. That's why he calls her a Daniel, who has come to judgment. And how I do honor, he really respects her for being a wise judge. Then Portia, I pray you, let me look upon the bond. Now she wants to look at the bond which Antonio had signed. And what does Shylock do? Here it is, most reverend doctor, here it is. See how nicely he's speaking to her, calling her a reverend doctor of law, a respected doctor of laws. Please, here it is, here it is. He shows it to her. And Portia, Shylock, there's thrice thy money offered thee. Now what is Portia trying to do here? There's thrice thy money offered thee. Portia now tells that Bassanio is offering him thrice his money, and he should take this offer. She's trying to tell him to call off the trial, to withdraw the case against Antonio, because if he really wants justice, then his money should be returned, and they're ready to pay him thrice that amount. Why don't you take it? How does Shylock react? An oath, an oath. I have an oath in heaven. Shall I lay perjury upon my soul? No, not for Venice. No, he cannot do it. He cannot withdraw the case against Antonio, because he has taken an oath. He has sworn that I have an oath in heaven. He has taken an oath in the sight of God. Oath in heaven, in the sight of God. Shall I lay perjury upon my soul? He asked whether he commit the sin of breaking an oath. No, how can he break an oath made in the sight of God? No, not for Venice. Not even for the sake of Venice will he commit the sin of breaking an oath made in the sight of God. He also claims that even not for the whole wealth of Venice will he break his oath. Portia, why? This bond is forfeit, and lawfully by this the Jew may claim a pound of flesh to be by him cut off nearest the merchant's heart. Be merciful, take thrice thy money, bid me tear the bond. What does Portia tell now? Now she has had a look at the bond. She knows that the bond is forfeit. The penalty mentioned in this bond has been incurred. That means this agreement has been broken. So, and lawfully, by this, the Jew may claim a pound of flesh. Yes, according to the terms of the bond, then Shylock can claim a pound of flesh to be by him cut off. That he can cut off from where? From nearest the merchant's heart, from near Antonio's heart. So she again urges him, pleads, be merciful, show mercy, take thrice thy money. Why don't you take? They're offering you 3 times the principal amount. Bid me tear the bond, order me to tear the bond. She's giving one more chance to listen to her later, so that she can lay the trap for him, children. That's what you have to notice about how clever she is laying the trap for Shylock. She is giving him every chance to be merciful, so that later if he doesn't show, she can be very cruel towards him. Take thrice thy money, bid me tear the bond, or bid me tear the bond, ordered me to tear the bond. But Shylock, what does Shylock tell? When it is paid according to the tenor, it doth appear that you are a worthy judge. You know the law, your exposition hath been most sound. I charge you by the law, whereof you are a well-deserving pillar. Proceed to judgment. By my soul I swear, there is no power in the tongue of man to alter me. I stay here on my bond. So what does Shylock tell? No, he will not order her to tear the bond. Yes, when will he do it? When it is paid. When the penalty is paid according to the terms, tenor, actual wording and meaning of the terms of the bond. Yes, he will allow her to tear the bond when the terms of the bond are met. The actual wording and meaning of the terms of the bond are met when he gets a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. And then he tells her, he compliments her. It doth appear you are a worthy judge. It seems to him that she seems to be an impartial judge. You know the law, she understands the law. Her exposition, understanding of the case had been most sound. She understands. How does he know that he understands? Her understanding of the case is very sound. She understands it very clearly. The way she is addressing the case, this shows that she understands the case very well. And I charge you by the law. He requests in the name of law, whereof you are a well-deserving pillar, of which she is a worthy member. Proceed to judgment. Give judgment by my soul. He swears by his soul. What? There is no power in the tongue of man to alter me. I stay here on my bond. There is nobody, he tells, makes it very clear, nobody has the persuasive power who can change his mind. Nobody through his good talk, wise talk, can make him change his mind. There is no power in the tongue of man. Nobody has the oratory skill, persuasive power to alter me, to change my mind from taking that pound of flesh. I stay here on my bond. Stay, insist on my bond. Then Antonio. Now Antonio, who is listening to all this, okay, he beseeches the court to pronounce the sentence at once. He is no longer interested in this. He knows that it is useless to appeal to Shylock. Most heartily, I do beseech the court to give the judgment. I request you to pronounce the judgment, sentence at once. He speaks like this because by now he is unable to endure any longer the slow torture of the trial. Portia, why then? Thus it is. You must prepare your bosom for his knife. She gives the judgment. Yes, then nothing else is there. You must prepare your bosom. You should reveal your chest for his knife so that he can take a pound of flesh. Imagine the plot. Can you imagine the jubilation of Shylock? Oh, noble judge! Oh, excellent young man! He's so overwhelmed with joy. He's very excited that finally a sentence has been pronounced. He calls her a noble judge, an excellent young man. Portia, for the intent and purpose of the law hath full relation to the penalty which here appeareth due upon the bond. So what does she tell? That for the intent and purpose, the law fully applies, hath full relation to the penalty. The provisions of the law are clearly applicable to this case as it stands there in the agreement and allows Shylock the right to exact penalty. So for the intent and purpose of the law, please come to meaning 258, fully applies, had full relation to the penalty. The provisions of the law are clearly applicable in this case, which here appeareth due upon the bond. Please come to line 258 to 59. It fully applies to such a penalty as it is incurred by the agreement. Portia, oh, it's very true. Oh, wise and upright judge. Now he is really trying to flatter her through his description of her, that she's a wise, upright judge. How much more elder art thou than thy looks. He believes that she might be young in looks, but very wise in head. She has the wisdom of elderly people. Portia, therefore, lay bare your bosom. Now she turns to Antonio and tells him to bare his chest, to remove his clothes. Shylock, aye, his breast. So says the bond. Doth it not, noble judge? Nearest his heart? Those are the very words. Yes, yes, yes. It is near his breast that is mentioned, that I can take a pound of flesh from nearest his breast. Is it not so mentioned in the bond? Is it not so, noble judge? Nearest his heart? Yes, they are the very words. Portia agrees. Yes, those are the exact words mentioned in the bond. It is so. Are there balance here to weigh the flesh? Now she asks whether he has the scales. Balance to weigh the flesh. Which flesh? The pound of flesh that he is going to take from the body of Antonio. Shylock, ever ready. I have them ready. Then Portia, have by some surgeon, Shylock, on your charge, to stop his wound, lest he do bleed to death. So now she requests that he should call a surgeon, a doctor, at his expense, on your charge. Arrange for a, have by some surgeon, arrange for a doctor, Shylock, at your own expense. Why? To stop his wounds, lest he should bleed to death. Otherwise, he will bleed to death. How does Shylock react? Is it no? Is it so nominated in the bond? It is not so expressed, but what of that? It were good you do so much for charity. Now Shylock is going by the words in the bond. He doesn't want to deviate from what is mentioned. He will go by the bond. Is it so expressed, nominated, specified in the bond? Portia, it is not so expressed. It's not so many words. It is not expressed, but what does it matter? Does it matter? But what of that? It were good you do so much for charity. It would be good for you to do out of kindness. Is there anything wrong in doing that, showing charity? Shylock, he looks at the bond, tells her, see, I cannot find it. It's not in the bond. I don't find anywhere the mention of a surgeon. Why should I provide for a surgeon, that at my expense, when it is not mentioned in the bond? Portia, come merchant, have you anything to say? Now, this is the, okay. Now, Portia stops pleading to him to show him mercy. Now, she knows that nothing can change Shylock's mind. Then she turns to Antonio. Come merchant, have you anything to say? I'm in line 275 in the textbook, children. She asks whether Antonio has got anything to say to the court. Antonio, let us see what Antonio has got to say. But little, he has very little to say to the court. And he goes on to tell, I am armed and well prepared. Give me your hand, Bassanio. Fare you well. He tells that he is equipped with spiritual strength. He is prepared to face anything. He is equipped, prepared with the spiritual strength to meet his death. And then he tells Bassanio, give me your hand. He takes his hand and fare you well. He bids him farewell. Bye-bye. Grieve not that I have fallen to this for you. He knows that Bassanio will be grieving, will be filled with sorrow, that he is the reason for Antonio's death. So he tries to console him. He knows that how bad Bassanio will feel when he dies. That's why he tells him, grieve not, don't feel bad, don't be filled with sorrow, that I am fallen to this for you, that I have incurred this because of you. Then he tells on a very positive note, for herein fortune shows herself more kind than is her custom. So children, I have already narrated, goddess fortune, who is blindfold, who dispenses wealth to people. So he tells that in his case, okay, that fortune, indeed, fortune is treating him more kindly than she usually does to others. It is still her use to let the wretched man outlive his well. So it is what is the custom of goddess fortune. It generally happens that when misfortune overtakes a man, he lives to see with his hollow eyes and wrinkled face the ruin which has come upon him, and to endure in old age of hardships and suffering. Outlive his wealth, to live to see the ruin of his possession. But now he doesn't have to live and see, outlive to see the, he doesn't have to live to see the ruin of his possession, to view with hollow eye and wrinkled brow an age of poverty. He doesn't have to see, live to see all this, from which lingering penance of such misery that she cut me off, because goddess fortune has spared him such long suffering, lingering penance, prolonged suffering, that she cut me off. From these sorrows, goddess fortune is mercilessly letting him escape by an early death. So at least he sees a positive side to his death. At least he doesn't have to live in poverty. He doesn't have to look at with sunken, with hollowed cheeks and wrinkled brows and hollowed eye, an age of poverty. And then he turns to, he tells Bassanio, come and meet your honorable wife. Even at this point, he is so concerned about the welfare of Bassanio and Portia. He tells, convey his regards to his honorable wife, Portia. Tell her the process of Antonio's death. He wants Bassanio to tell Portia of the manner in which, how Antonio died. Say how I loved you. Speak me fair in death. And he tells Bassanio to tell Portia how much Antonio loved Bassanio, and tells, speak, be fair in death, speak well of me, don't all ill. And when the tale is told, bid her be the judge whether Bassanio had not once a love. And he tells her, then when Bassanio has told told her everything, let her decide whether her husband had not a true and loyal friend. Repent not that you shall lose your friend. He knows that. He tells Bassanio that his only regret must be that he will lose his friend, dear friend Antonio. And he repents not that he pays your debt. He is speaking of himself in third person. He here refers to Antonio, and even he doesn't repent that he is paying Bassanio's debt. So he will not grieve, Antonio will not grieve that he is making this sacrifice for his sake. And for if the Jew do cut but deep enough, I will pay it instantly with all my heart. So he tells that he pays the penalty freely, and if Shylock's knife penetrates far enough, it will be quite true to say that he has paid with all his heart. Underline the word heart. How does it mean it, children? One meaning is he will pay the debt with his heart's blood. The other meaning is he will pay the debt with most heartily. He will do it heartily. He is ready to pay his life heartily for the sake of Bassanio. I hope you're jotting down the points, children. At that time, Bassanio, Antonio, I am married to your wife, which is as dear as to me as life itself. But life itself, my wife, and all the world are not with me esteemed above thy life. I would lose all, I sacrifice them all here to this devil to deliver you. What does Bassanio say here, children? See, Bassanio is so grief-stricken now. He tells that he is married to your wife, which is dear to me as life itself. He tells that, okay, that he is married to Portia, whom he loves as dearly as his own life. But life itself, my life, and all the world are not with me esteemed above thy life. He is ready to sacrifice everything because he holds Antonio's life above his own life, his wife, and all the riches that the world has to offer. I would lose all. I'm prepared to lose everything. Yes, ready to sacrifice everything here to this devil Shylock to deliver you, to save you. He is prepared to do anything, go to any length, including sacrificing his wife's life, his life, and all the riches in the world to save Antonio. Imagine what Portia might feel, children, when she hears, Bassanio doesn't know his wife is there, but Portia is there. Let us find out what Portia has to say to this offer of Bassanio to save Antonio. Children, I will meet you in the next class. Please go through the quality of speech mercy and how stoically Antonio is prepared to meet his death, children. See you in the next class.